Welcome back to episode 2 of the Getting Started Calisthenics series. So in this video, we're going to go through our second training session of the week on our 4-time-a-week push-pull split. If you missed out on the first video, be sure to check it out. I'll add the link below. So in this session, we're hitting a tuck lever focused pull day. We're going to start things off with the tuck lever at 3 sets by 5-second holds. Now I know you're probably thinking 3 sets of tuck levers seems awfully low. Which honestly begs the question, is this even enough to make progress? It depends. I like to include a few sets of lever work in the beginning of a session for a beginner, just to begin to familiarize themselves with the position. But I think a lot of people jump right into specific calisthenic work way too soon without having a good foundation built. More specifically when we're talking about pulling exercises, the weighted chin up and the weighted pull up. So what I'm talking about in terms of a good foundation of pulling is, first and foremost, training through a full range of motion. So at the bottom of each rep, beginning with locked out elbows, and then pulling yourself high enough to the top of each rep without using any assisted momentum from your hips. More specifically, you should be able to handle 25% of your body weight for a few reps of either chest to bar chin-ups or chin over the bar pull-ups. Like I said earlier, when it comes to the tuck lever, you can still start working a few sets just to begin to familiarize yourself with the pattern. So let's talk about how to enter it properly. With the tuck lever, or the lever in general, we're going to want our shoulders in line with our hips. A lot of this has to do, especially for the beginner, on how we enter the position. You can pull yourself into the position, you can lower yourself down into the position, you can jump into the position, or my personal favorite, push yourself back into it. Keep in mind, lever pulls are going to be a progression on the standard lever, so by pulling yourself into the tuck lever or performing the negative or lowering yourself down into it, you're technically performing a progression on the tuck lever, so most likely your quality is going to decrease for your actual holds. The main issue we run into when jumping into it, we simply just don't have enough control of the movement yet, so we end up swinging back and forth. Pushing yourself back into it allows you to more slowly enter the position while getting yourself set to help keep that parallel hip position. An individual dip bar is going to work best for this setup, but if you don't have access to one, a barbell securely placed in a squat rack or a dip bar attached to a squat rack can work just as well. Up next is what I'm going to consider our primary work for the session, and that's going to be pronated pull-ups at 5 sets by 5 to 7 reps. With any lever variation, we're going to maintain the position with our shoulder extensors, more specifically our lats and posterior delts, as well as our scap retractors. Think rhomboids and traps. Due to the lack of leverage and high strength requirements of the lever, I find it best for a beginner to actually start out with pronated pull-ups, just because we get a lot of carryovers or similarities in the muscles that are involved in both of the movements. For these, I like to cue leading with the chest and slightly retracting the scapula. You're going to want to keep your upper arms close to your body and imagine pulling your elbows into your side pockets. While I think it's important to lead with the chest and pinch the shoulder blades together, it's going to be more about the intent of that cue than actually maintaining it. If you lose it or there's a little breakdown at the top of the pull-up, it's nothing to be worried about. On the flip side of these, I don't want people pulling from an overextended spine either. Up next, we're getting into our true horizontal work with ring rows. We're going to be doing 3 sets by 8 to 10 reps of these. Because we just used a pronated hand position in the lever and the pull-up work, I find it best to get a little variety. That's why I prefer ring rows. The rings allow us to start in a pronated hand position and turn to a neutral position at the top. This is going to be less stressful on the forearms and allow the scapula to move more freely. And be sure to pull the rings all the way to the chest at the top, so you're training through a full range of motion. And keep in mind, there's nothing wrong with adjusting your torso angle in order to train through the full range of motion and be able to hit the required rep range. Honestly, there's nothing more annoying than having a client that positions their hips parallel and can't pull themselves all the way to the top, or worse, they end up kipping their hips to complete the top range of the motion. We're going to go ahead and superset these ring rows with 3 sets by 6 to 8 reps of posted single leg deadlifts. Just as a reminder, our pulling day also incorporates lower body exercises where we're pulling the weight closer to our center of mass. So think deadlifts and hamstring curls. And I've opted for a single leg deadlift variation, because remember, our main goal is calisthenic work here, and a traditional barbell deadlift's going to require a lot more energy to recover from session to session. With these deadlifts, you're more than welcome to use a barbell, but I find the hip hinge pattern to be a little tricky for beginners. For this reason, dumbbells and kettlebells tend to be a better option. Next, we're going to round out the session with some pull downs. If you're training from home, you can simply use a band with a stick. Remember, the way we maintain the hip position in the lever is from isometric shoulder extension. A great way to train this pattern dynamically with this movement, since the pattern's similar. And I really like this exercise for beginners to feel what their lats should be feeling like in the lever. And if you have access to it, you can make this movement more subjective by using a cable machine, or even isolate each arm individually. We're gonna superset these pull downs with Nordic hamstring curls to get a little more specific hamstring work in. If you don't have a good setup for Nordic curls, or personally don't care for them, by all means you're welcome to use a traditional hamstring curl machine if you have access to it. And that's gonna finish out the workout, guys. Just so you can see what the full thing looks like, there you go. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of the series. Leave a thumbs up if you like it, and I'll see you guys again next week.